Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again for day 2 of the Etherlink Hackathon Summer of Code workshops. Today, we have James from Sequence coming to give a workshop on how to use their tools. And hopefully, you're going to get a really good introduction and get inspired to start building as we're getting started now. So James, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you. Please feel free to share your screen and I'll hand over to you. I'll be in the chat for any questions, but otherwise, any questions directed at James will save for the end as usual, and we'll power through. Does that sound good, James?
Beautiful. Yeah, sounds good. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, you sound good. You look good. We can't wait to
Flattery already. All right, really appreciate it. Thank you for the introduction, Rebecca. I'll do a brief intro of myself, a little bit about Sequence, and kind of the work also that we're doing with Etherlink. So it was really exciting. I actually attended the event during ECC, so that was like super exciting. The energy in the crowd was wild. A little bit about myself. I've been in the blockchain space now 8 or 9 years. So quite a while at this point, mainly as a software engineer. And then formerly I was at a few different crypto orgs. And lately I've been leading the DevRel team here at Sequence, working with our partners, scaling our basically developer integrations. So if you have any questions of how to build with Sequence, I'm probably the one to ask. And that's why I'm really excited to share with you all the great stuff that we're doing with Etherlink. So let's go ahead and we can dive into it. Let me share my screen now. And you should see the infinite window in just a second.
Yeah, perfect.
And I'll actually sign out real quick. Let's see.
If you want to close, we can see me and you in the bottom corner there. If you just want to close that with the little, yeah, that's good.
Okay,
Nice.
Beautiful. Awesome. So a little bit about Sequence is we are Web3 infrastructure. So essentially everything under the sun that you need to get started to build basically your application and to really, maximize kind of your go-to-market, your engineering resources, all that good stuff. We accelerate your development quite significantly. So what this means is you have a full stack wallet solution. So whether this is embedded or an ecosystem wallet, we have, a smart contract suite, so you can deploy all those different contracts. You can create a marketplace, create a shop, do primary sales, peer-to-peer sales, whether you're like a game marketplace, if you are building a DeFi application, all that good stuff. And then we also have support with our leading class indexer. So this allows you to query like performantly millions of transactions across a variety of different chains and for a specific user. I'll touch on that in just a bit. And then we also have things like gas sponsorship that allows you to like make the UX much more seamless for your users. And lastly, all the stuff that I just talked about is basically wrapped into our different SDKs. So this makes it really easy to integrate into basically your favorite framework, whether this is like a React application, if you're building a Unity or Unreal game, whatever you're building, it's really simple to get started with Sequence. So what's really nice here is we collaborated with Etherlink to also have a one-stop shop builder. So basically you can come to build.etherlink.com and this will allow you to sign in. And what's really cool about this is it's scoped specifically to those networks. So I already created a project here, and you'll notice that I already have like basically Etherlink mainnet and testnet already ready within this application. And whenever I go in here, it'll tell me some different things that you can like kind of use to get started with Sequence. So it gives you some analytics of like, who's kind of using your project, and then kind of the, popular things that you generally want to do. So if you want to create a wallet, you want to deploy a contract, you want an NFT collection, and then we have a bunch of guides that you can actually integrate as well. So this is really nice that you can get started. And then we also have like boilerplates, SDKs, blueprints, which more or less can streamline your development for the most common use cases. So this is all well and good. And I talked a little bit about the different stuff that Sequence can actually do. So now I can go ahead and dive into the various aspects. So one common one is also our embedded wallet. This is really nice. For those of you who don't know what an embedded wallet is, it's basically scoped to a specific application. which makes it really easy to actually get set up and to transact on chain. So what that means is basically any transactions or signing or anything like that is basically hidden under the hood. And what's really nice about Sequence is how we orchestrated this embedded wallet is it's fully non-custodial. And you have a variety of different social providers and auth providers that you can use in order to authenticate your users. So you'll notice in the actual integration, all you do is kind of plug in a few of the different configuration keys. And then you can also customize kind of what the actual widget looks like. And at the bottom here, we just spit out basically code that you can more or less copy and paste into your application. So if you're building a React application, you can simply copy that and plug it right in. But nevertheless, you can also configure it right from within Builder here. So if I want to change the different login providers that I've added, you can see that we have a whole suite of them. We're constantly adding more. So we just added X actually, which is really popular right now, but a lot of ones centered around gaming like Epic, Twitch, Facebook, Google, Apple. So most of the popular ones are here. And then we also have guest accounts. That's also really popular. So that enables if you're building a mobile game or you want something that's extremely light from the UX side of things, that enables really nice kind of spin ups of that. And lastly, for the different kind of integrations that you have, you can select basically the different frameworks that you're using, and then literally copy and paste kind of this CLI command, and that'll automatically spin up a boilerplate application, so you can see very fast what exactly an integration with Sequence would look like, and that is completely tailored to your project. So all you have to do is basically use that, plug in kind of your environment variables here, and then you're off to the races. So just as a kind of demonstration of what this actually looks like, let me go ahead and I'll jump over to one of our SDKs. So I'm going to log out here. So what basically you'll get whenever you do integrate the embedded wallet is more or less a flow similar like this. So you would click connect. You can see you have a variety of kind of methods that you can use that we triggered, as you can see from the builder. And you can do it with email, Google, social, Apple, typical Web3 wallets you could also authenticate with. But I think for right now, we want to do it with Google. And I'll just log in with my email. And you can see basically that we have a variety of different kind of functions here. So you can just sign a message straight away. You can also send transactions, and you'll notice that as I send these different transactions, that I don't actually see any pop-ups or modals or anything like that within this. We also have an integrated wallet widget, so you can see all the networks that you're currently connected to, or you can filter by only certain ones, and you can see also your total USD balance across all these different chains. So this is really nice that you get this kind of out of the box. You don't have to design your own widget. One thing I do want to mention is there's some people that want to go all the way and they want to build out their entire kind of UX flow that's really tailored to their application. So maybe you don't want to use this at all. That's completely an option as well. So the embedded wallet is actually completely headless. So even though we do have these nice functions built in, you can have a completely headless experience and design your own UX flow. So that's something to mention as well. And I think what's really cool is we also have the ability to link different wallets. So if I wanted to add, let's say, my MetaMask wallet, you could also do this as well. And what this would seamlessly do, if I can go off of the modal, you can see if I go back to my managed wallets, you can see all the different MetaMask wallets that I currently have. So this allows you to basically not only use a single wallet scoped to that application, but someone can bring their own wallet, and you can actually query all these different wallets that a user has to kind of build this profile of your users for your application, and get all their assets across all the chains that are supported or on Etherlink. So this is really cool to do, and we see a lot of people actually wanting to query multiple of those wallets in order to make it a little more streamlined for their users. So that's a little bit about kind of the UX flow on what it feels like from the embedded wallet side of things. So now that I kind of went over a little bit about embedded wallet, I'd also like to show a little bit about our contract suite. So you can see I already deployed a contract creatively titled Pancake here, and you'll see why in just a second. But I'm going to go through the deployment process again. So here you can use, I'm just going to deploy a new contract. You'll see that we have like the most usual suspects of the kind of contracts that you generally want to deploy. So, 721s, ERC20s, 1155s. But I think what's a little more unique as well is we also have corresponding sale contracts. Now, a sale contract is basically used to facilitate a primary sale. So, for example, if you are selling game items to your users, you can use something like a sale contract. And that allows you to have something like a kind of a web shop where you're selling directly to your players, as opposed to something like a marketplace where your users are selling peer-to-peer. So if you're wanting to implement something like microtransactions or direct to player kind of sales, then the sale contract can be a good option. And then lastly, we also have soulbound contracts. So if you're doing things like battle passes, or you're doing some kind of like loyalty programs and things like that, soulbound tokens can be a good option for that. So that they remain with their user. Now, one thing to also mention is we also have, these are all audited as well. So if you want to check out actually like the audit report on them, you can check out the GitHub link. I won't go into all those details right now, but it is nice if you are security minded, which we definitely are here. So let me go ahead and I'm just going to deploy one of these on Etherlink testnet. And let's say I'll just call this Pancake Encode. Here you can also set like basically the different parameters of this contract deploy. So the contract owner in this case is going to be my address that I'm deploying with. And you can also set the royalty recipient. And royalty recipient is really nice if you are basically selling these items on a peer-to-peer marketplace. So basically, anytime a sale is made, 3% of those royalties will then get distributed to the royalty recipient. And now I'm going to go ahead and actually deploy this contract. And you'll also note that you can see that the network fee is actually free here. So that's really convenient as well. We actually do all the transactions through Builder will be funneled through our relayer. And this means that on testnet, we sponsor all the transactions using our gas sponsorship, which I'll come to a bit later. And that means like you don't have to go to a faucet or an external application or anything like that. You can just simply deploy all the contracts right from here. And so now this looks all good. I have the contract deployed. You can see, if there was any collectibles that were linked here, you could see them here. But you can also read the different like functions in the contract. So if you just want to do some like queries, I'm sure those of you who use like Etherscan or similar kind of block explorers, similar interface that you would expect. And then you can also call the right functionality right from here as well. So that all looks good. I think what I'm going to go to next is, now that we have an 1155 contract, we actually want to add the metadata that is associated with that, because an NFT or a semi-fungible contract is not so exciting until you have the actual metadata associated with each token. So let's go ahead. I'm going to create a new collection, and let's call this Pancake Strawberry. I'm going to upload an image of this, and we'll just put a cover image here. And we're going to call this Strawberry Pancakes. And I swear this will all make sense in just a second. And so now we basically have this like group of various metadata that's associated with this. And then we're going to then define a specific collectible. So in this case, we're going to define token ID 0. and this will be a strawberry pancake. And we'll just title it a few different things. And probably the most important thing for any NFT is actually doing the artwork upload. So here we have the strawberry pancakes with a nice little hat. This hat could, like, denominate different kind of like features or functionality within the game or whatever kind of project. So now that we've added all these information, you can also specify the different metadata attributes for this particular NFT. So let's just say that you would want one key that would be rarity, and this would be legendary. And you can go ahead and, like, of course, add a bunch of others. But this is like whenever you're on a marketplace or similar, if you're filtering by certain traits, these are the properties that would actually come up. So this is really nice that you can add all this via UI. So even if you're not a developer, you could add all this information right from Etherlink Builder. And you can also see the metadata associated with this particular collection. So you can see where the image is actually hosted, properties, all the good stuff that's associated with this. So this looks all good for now. And now that I have this collection actually created, the important thing is you'll notice that I didn't actually do an on-chain transaction for that collection. So I want to now link that collection I just created to my 1155 contract that I deployed. So this will automatically already detect which ones kind of like don't already have a link associated with them. So I'm going to go ahead and confirm that. It'll prompt me to do a transaction, and you'll notice that it's setting the metadata URI and the contract URI. So that's the updates that's doing. And let's go ahead and submit that as well. So after a few seconds, that'll do that on-chain transaction, and that actually creates the link. So whenever you query this specific token ID, you can find that metadata attribute field along with that URI. So I'll show you what that looks like in just a little bit, and kind of how that functions. But what's really cool here is you can also do that sale contract that I told you about. So I'm going to go ahead and also click on the Web3 game items. And then you can select basically a contract that you want to link that with. And the sale contract will basically be given rights over that specific NFT contract in order to do functions on it. So that's basically what I'm confirming now, is creating a link between these two. And I'll show you what this looks like in just a little bit. But more or less, you can also have all the contracts on Builder also come with access control. So now I'm going to go over to mint access, and these are the way that you would actually set up your different sale that you would like to do. So for instance, if you're doing a drop at a certain time, you can set from token ID 0 to token ID 100. The supply cap could be 1,000. The unit price would be priced in XTZ. And you could also define what the start and end time is of that particular sale. So that's what's really nice, is you can do this again all through the UI. And once this is all configured, you can also select to have the sale in the native gas token, or you can also select a custom currency. So maybe you'd want it in I don't know, USDC or any other token. That could be an option. And you can also do a public or private sale. And typically, doing a private sale is fairly difficult. So you have to create basically the Merkle proof and the Merkle root of the specific addresses that you want enabled for that private sale. And in this case, I'll show you kind of how this would function, but we basically take care of all that complexity for you. So let's go ahead and update the sale details. And basically that's just confirming that, okay, we're setting the payment token, we're deploying that sale contract with these parameters. And now that we have that sale deployed, the last thing would be to actually link those two together. So let's go ahead and I'm going to copy this address. And this is the sale contract address As you can just see, I deployed here, and I'm going to go to the NFT contract that I deployed previously. And what's actually going to happen is I want to give permissions to that specific contract in order to mint on it. So here I'm just going to paste in the address of the sale contract. In this case, I'm going to update it to just minter. And what that allows me to do is basically anytime someone would pay the payable function with those sale details that I created earlier, as long as all that's fulfilled, then it would basically call the mint function for that specific token on that token contract. So you generally want to make sure that's all set up, but it's fairly, trivial in order to like kind of streamline this. And what's really cool here is now that I kind of deployed a primary sale, I have my NFT contract, I have all that good stuff set up. I can also just mint these directly to a wallet if I'd want. So right within here, you can say, I want 5, tokens to be distributed to my address. Maybe if I was just testing, you can actually do this like in large batches. So even if you're deploying like 5,000 at once, we use batch transactions, and therefore you can make it extremely efficient in order to do large scale like NFT mints to make sure it's really gas efficient as well as cost effective. So now that I have all that set up, I have my contract deployed, I have my collection. Generally, what you can also do is check out the marketplace. Now, the marketplace is really cool. So this is also how you can either launch your shop or your peer-to-peer marketplace. We'll be coming out with the shop within the next couple weeks. So this is really imminent of when we'll actually release this. But for now, I want to actually show off a little bit about the marketplace and how this functions. So here, whenever you click on the marketplace, you could do some, kind of setup and configuration. And it's really seamless. You can actually just add any kind of collection that you want. So I'll go ahead and add the new one I just deployed. And what's really nice is you can also, configure this on a per collection basis. So you can choose what kind of currencies you actually want to support. So if you wanted to have a particular, collection listed in a different custom currency or maybe your specific currency, you could simply just add it there. Otherwise, you can also choose how you actually want to kind of like sort this information. So you'll remember that I actually created this rarity attribute. So you could have this at the top of the kind of stack. So maybe generally people like sort by rarity most commonly. So you'd want the most rare ones on top, which tend to be the most valuable. In addition to this, you can also fully like brand this marketplace yourself. So you can set up custom domains, the name of the marketplace, your kind of like social media information, appearances, all that good stuff. And lastly, you also see that I'm currently using the Sequence embedded wallet along with other wallets that are currently supported. So let me just go ahead and go back to the marketplace, and I'll just load this up here. So a couple of the banners that I didn't actually add to the Pancake Strawberry one that I just deployed, but no worries, I'll just click on the one that I deployed previously, and we'll take a look at what this looks like. So now we have one of our listings that are actually here, and this is a few of the NFTs with the Pancake skull that I minted to my address here. So you'll see that I currently actually own 3 of these particular ones. And if I click on the particular NFT, then you can do the main things that you'd want to on a peer-to-peer marketplace. So here I can see basically the different details if someone created, what rarity it is, token ID, all the different properties. You can see if there's any offers on that particular collection. And you can also see the listings that I created as well. So if I want to create a new listing, I can go ahead and just spin that up here. I'll only sell one of these, and then you can actually just add the different kind of like listings that you would like. So if I wanted, maybe I want to sell this Pancake skull for 1,000 XTZ. So this one's super rare. and this will automatically deduct as well the royalties associated with that collection. So you can see like the total earnings and how it will be distributed. You also notice that even if you're not familiar with blockchain, that no like modal has actually popped up. So the wallet is all embedded within the marketplace. And then we can also check out the transaction. So we're on the testnet of Etherlink, and we can see exactly what was created here, along with like the logs that were emitted. So here we're actually interacting with the sequence market order book. And here you can see the request IDs and all the information that was actually created. So whether this was a listing, the quantity of that particular transaction that we created, the currency, so we defined that in the native gas token, all that good stuff, along with like the expiry. So all that happens on chain, even though under the hood, it's really quite seamless. And I think one thing to mention as well, even though I'm using like, in this case, a web application to demo it, you can use any kind of application. So we have SDKs for a marketplace in Uni, in Unreal, and web, all that good stuff. So that's completely possible as well. Let me just take a drink. So I've been rambling for a bit. Beautiful. So now that I showed a little bit about the marketplace as well, I'm going to head back over to Etherlink Builder. And just, that was really easy to get your marketplace kind of online and create it. So I more or less created this in less than 5 minutes. The last thing I'll mention about the marketplace, even though I deployed this as a white label version, so the UI was already done for me. All I had to really do is add my collections, and then you're basically off to the races. You can also, and we have SDKs to completely build your own custom marketplace. So in that case, it's virtually completely headless, or we have an open source version of what I just presented here. So let's see if I can grab that. And what that allows you to do is you can basically start, if you want to start from a good starting point, it would be basically like the same application that I just showed you. So you can already kind of like accelerate your development timeline if you're deploying a marketplace, and then you can just tweak kind of the UI from there, or you can just build it completely from scratch, only use the APIs and SDKs. And here we have like some brief information of how to set this up and add it as well. So we do have a lot of people that also want to build like completely their own, or they start with a white label and then down the road they move to the custom one, which is really nice because fundamentally they're all using the same smart contracts. So there's actually like very little migration needed, if any. It will all have the same liquidity, no matter if you migrate now or down the road. So that's really cool. A few additional things that I wanted to show you because it's really common, especially not only for a lot of games, but for a lot of other applications in DeFi, if you're building like other kind of wallets as well. This is really nice to be able to use, is we have our indexer. This is what we're actually using across the entire stack. So we're dog fooding our own stuff, so to say. And here within our indexer, it's hyper performant, it's multi-chain as well. So you can query between multiple chains at the same time. But in this case, like it allows you to choose from a list of different endpoints. And these are just examples to get you started. We have a full kind of documentation on all the API endpoints and all the different parameters. But it's really quite seamless. So let me go ahead. I'm going to grab this address actually. And here you can basically plug in the different account, and then you can also choose kind of what you actually want to make this request on. So here, all I did was basically pass in my account address. I'm using the get transaction history endpoint, and it's using this particular API access key. And it also provides you kind of like the quota that you currently have enabled, which is quite generous. And here you can see along the right-hand side, for those techie nerds out there, this is basically the response of all the transaction history for my wallet that I just created. So here I can see, you know, the chain ID, the block hash, transaction hash, more or less everything for that entire user's history. Super performant, and you can, you know, use this at scale. Definitely recommend checking it out. And a lot of people do it like via polling, but you can also actually use it as a WebSocket as well. So if you want to like subscribe to a certain event, you can do that as well, and it'll just listen to a specific, you know, smart contract or whatever the case is, and that allows you to have really high performance to listen kind of like at scale. And if you need to immediately react, depending on kind of like a certain event that is emitted, to make it really nice for your users. The last thing I'll touch on the indexer side of things is also webhooks that we have embedded. I already created one on Etherlink testnet, and this is really cool. So basically, all you have to do is define kind of your URL where you want this webhook to emit an event. You can listen to events from any kind of smart contract. So anything on chain, you just simply select it here, and then it will automatically import the different events that you have. So these are the ones that are exposed in that contract. And you can either, you know, listen to them all. It provides you the entire type along with like the actual function that you're listening to. And that allows you to react. Like, you know, if someone transfers a token from this specific contract, do you want to do something on your backend? And just as an example of what this looks like, here I already have a webhook defined here. And this is the URL where it's being posted. So anytime this specific contract, so this Pancakes contract here, is basically transferred, then this will automatically emit a you know, a response or request to my backend. And in this case, I'm just setting up like a demo webhook, and this will be the like emit of that particular response. So this is really nice. You can see the exact transfer event at the bottom here, along with the contract type. So this is really, really cool when you want to listen and update your backend depending on some on-chain functionality. And this works extremely performantly as well. So now that I've talked a little bit about Indexer, I'd also like to briefly touch on the gas sponsorship. So you'll remember me saying that on testnet, we basically sponsor all the transactions for you. So that's what we've been using this whole time, is the same kind of like flow. Now, whenever you do go to mainnet, generally you'd want to also sponsor your specific contracts, depending on if you want a really great UX or if you think users will not have gas tokens within their wallet. And this is where gas sponsorship is very handy. So all you have to do is basically you set up a payment method with a credit card, and then you have a few different options so you can like toggle whether it tops up automatically or if there are certain balance, like some different permutations of this. And then whenever you set all that up, all you have to do is I'll go to the testnet now. You can add the different contracts that you would like. And that will mean that anytime somebody interacts with any of those contracts through basically a Sequence wallet, then they will be sponsored for the users. So this is really nice. And you can, like, for instance, plug in the marketplace contract that we created. So anytime someone interacts with the marketplace for you, it's basically gas free. So this is really cool that you can embed this and have like a really seamless UX. And then you can either do it on a contract basis or as a specific address. So that's an option as well in order to make the experience much smoother for your users. Now, a couple other things that I want to touch on is also audience. So audience, you'll remember in the sale contract is you could have a public mint, or you could also have a private mint. Here, this allows you to create an audience list. And so let's just say, I'll call this Encode. And more or less, this is fairly simple, but extremely powerful. So here you can add, let me just pull my wallet address, paste it here. we'll do James, and we'll go ahead and add that contract. And what this allows you to do is basically like populate a list either manually, or you can do it via a CSV file. And this will automatically create a list of all the different addresses and then a corresponding Merkle root. So now that I basically have this audience list created, I can go over back to the sale contract. And let's say I wanted to make this a private sale instead. You can simply select the private sale. And then whenever you go to your audience list, I could select the specific audience that I wanted. And then this would be the Merkle root that's actually defined for that private sale. So in this case, it means only my address could actually call this sale contract. So this is really common where you'd split up your sale into maybe multiple phases. In phase one for 12 hours, it's a private mint. Maybe it's a little bit cheaper. And then after those 12 hours are up, then it would move on to another kind of like the public mint. So this is a really kind of common setup that you can do and orchestrate entirely through Builder as well. And the last thing that I'll touch on is our analytics. So we have built-in analytics automatically. So this will give you like a complete history over all your monthly active users, your daily active users, a lot of different retention metrics and like different things that you'd want to check out. So you can see all the different views that we currently have. And then like also where your users are actually coming in from. So whether they're anonymous or what device they're using, all that good stuff that you need in order to, make sure you quantify where people are actually coming from. And then things like, retention metrics are already built in. So you don't actually have to do any kind of like data integration. This is already just keeping track whenever you're using your specific access key. And this is really nice because then you can provide this data to people like Etherlink and be like, hey, look how much traffic we're driving to your chain and look how good our project's doing. And that really helps kind of like, cement how nice your project is contributing to the chain. So this is really nice as well that it comes built in. And we have a lot of custom functionality. So a lot of people can use this on an API basis. So if you want to plug this into your backend dashboards and just show it off internally, you can also plug it into things like Dune. So Dune can actually query an API endpoint, and they could query your daily active users. So if you want to showcase this data publicly or something like that, that's definitely an option as well, that you can tap into this via an API format. The very last thing I'll say is we also have built into all of this, which I was more or less just using throughout the demo, is getting a JSON RPC node. So typically you have to go to like multiple providers or switch between multiple people in order to get all this functionality. But here we're just leveraging, and we have a few Etherlink nodes that are available. And what's really nice is these are automatically load balanced. So if any of them fail, it'll automatically roll over, and also has like a category of the different node requests that you've made within a certain like cycle. So all you'd have to do is if you're using like Infura or another kind of like node provider, you can just grab this and plug it right in. And that's another cost, or at least a simplification that you don't have to think about. You can just have everything in one place. So ultimately, Sequence is, a stack that really accelerates kind of like your, development lifecycle. So frequently we see people using Sequence, they can get to market much faster. Their engineers save a lot of time. And you can really focus on, what your application's doing, what is unique about your product, and, abstract some of this, like, let's say, less sexy backend stuff to us. And, we've been doing this for a long time now. Sequence has been operating for 6-7 years at this point. And so this makes it very streamlined where, we battle tested this with many different mints, with many like high traffic events. And so this really helps kind of you get to market faster and build like a product that people love. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I think I've talked long enough. And if there's any questions, also happy to answer those as well.
We have had some questions while you were going. So you're able to see the chat now, I assume, because you're back in Livestorm. The reason I say that is because Andre earlier has written about what he'd like to build, and instead of reading it out in full, I'll give the TLDR for the recording, but reading it out in full, if you could have a look at that message. But Andre wants to build a gamified platform where parents are assigning tasks to their kids, and each task is represented by an NFT. And he wants to know if using Sequence to manage the smart wallets for both parents and children would be a good fit for what he's calling the like multi-user setup with minting. And yeah.
The answer is yes, of course. No, but yeah, it really is nice because it's designed for even if someone's not so familiar with like Web3, you don't have to be. So you can kind of choose how much of that underlying, technology that you want to showcase. So in this case, like I imagine most of these parents and children, you could have like some kind of social auth. I think even I, as a child, I had a Google login. So I think it's maybe that wasn't the best, but look where I'm now. So you can definitely have like people log in with their favorite, social login. Twitch may be a good one for kids, and therefore they could interact with something like, kind of like a gamified chore setup. So it sounds like a lot of fun and probably get me taking out the trash more.
Nice. I have to say, don't think I had a Google Auth login as a child, but maybe I was too young when Google Auth logins became a thing. Anyway, Mana flagged that you showed a production key. Can you just verify whether that was accidental, in which case we'll edit it out and hopefully Mana didn't quickly write it down. But if not, it should be fine.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
So it's fine. It's fine. So everything I showed, yeah, I didn't show any private keys or anything, but more or less it's scoped. What's really nice is it's scoped to, this application. So in this case, kind of the keys that I've shown are, publicly accessible keys. So that's completely fine, specifically on the embedded wallet side. So no issues there. I don't think you need anything.
Nice. So Vinay has asked, can we use the same standards of ERC tokens here as you would for kind of Ethereum in general? For example, can you use Open Zeppelin?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of the contracts I showed you are based on Open Zeppelin. So they're inheriting the libraries. We're not doing anything like, particularly wild there. So they have a few different like functionalities, like in the sale contract, we have, specific parameters, but they're based on Open Zeppelin contracts. Something I did want to mention is even though I showed mainly only contracts that like are, prefabs that we created and audited, you can actually upload any custom contract and just use that within Builder. So if you don't want to, hop around to different like applications or go to like a specific block explorer, you can just pass in that API and the source code of the contract and then use it right from within Builder. So that's an option as well.
Nice. And then our last question, I think this could be one of two questions. I'm assuming the question is, how can people get access to be able to use Sequence throughout the hackathon?
Great question. So I think we have a code set up somewhere. So
if you're not sure, I can tell you what is in the hacker pack, which is the last thing I was told. If there is a code set up, then potentially that might be even quicker. But from what I've been told, if you create a new project, so you register and you create a new project, and then you contact Hammy from the Sequence team, either on email or Telegram, and share your project ID, I believe, then they can upgrade you to get upgraded access, and that should last you for the hackathon. That's the last thing I know.
Becky,
sounds good.
More than me.
Okay, cool. Just in case a code had been created, but I think that is the way. All that information is in the hacker pack, including Hammy's contact details. So it should be nice and easy for you to register through there. The alternative question this could have been was, how do you get access to the hackathon, but I'm assuming the fact that Ria's here in this call, they have already registered for the hackathon. But in case anyone watching the recording hasn't and would like to know how, please make sure that you register, you and your teammates, on the Etherlink hackathon website, which I can put in the chat, but you guys all know it. But for those who don't, I'll put in the YouTube description. And make sure you've registered yourself and your team, and you'll get access to things like the hacker pack, and the the submission form, and all of the email reminders and updates, as well as the Discord channel where all the mentorship is going on. So please make sure you do that and keep yourself in the loop for the course of the hackathon. So registrations will stay open until the end, but you won't have access to all of the stuff like the mentorship and the updates, and all the useful information that you need. So don't delay. Register now. To call to action there. So that is all the questions we had while you were talking, James. But I will give people a minute to see if we have any others. We are actually coming towards the end of the session anyway. Actually, that was a perfect 45 minutes, which is a great length of a session. Does anyone else have any last minute questions about Sequence or the Summer of Code in general? Otherwise, we will wrap up here for today. The recording of James's session will be available tomorrow, privately unlisted. I'll post the link to it on the Discord, and it will also be available in the Hacker Pack. It's unlisted, so even if you follow us on YouTube, you won't be able to see it unless you have your registration. So that's another reason. So make sure that you rewatch if there's anything that you want to implement yourself, and you want to remember what James showed. Doesn't look like we have anyone typing, so we will end there for today. Thank you very much, James, for coming in and delivering this workshop. I hope people find your tools really useful for the course of the hackathon, and I hope everyone's journey so far is going smoothly. Make sure that you're asking questions in the Discord if you're confused. And best of luck, everyone. I will see you all tomorrow for another workshop. Okay, everyone, thank you for joining us. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Thanks, James.